What's poppin', TCG players? Saberwolf24, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about the worst Pokemon TCG format and the best TCG format, thus far at least. Things could change in the future, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be hard to top both of them. So, the worst Pokemon TCG format in my opinion, is when the Black and White series started and they changed the rules. Basically, you could play all the trainers and do everything like we can do right now. The only difference is that you can attack first turn. And this was very, very bad. It meant that the first player had absolute advantage. I mean, you guys can argue that in the past and even now, playing first or second, you do have an advantage kind of thing. But I mean, the way it was in Black and White in the beginning was just so blatant. It was obvious the person that played first had absolute advantage. It was going to be impossible basically to win if both of you guys drew like good enough hands and you were both going off, like unless the guy that played first had pretty shit luck and the guy that played second, did everything right and what have you, or the first person misplayed and shit. But if both players just didn't misplay, they got good hands, they managed to do what they were supposed to do, the player that played first basically was going to win because it's just basic maths. He gets one free attack, it's going to be one attack ahead. Now, even though that was pretty shit, either way, it was only going to get at its maximum shit when cards like Darkrai and Dark Patch came out in Dark Explorers. I think it was, yeah, about then when the shit got kind of too crazy. And then even later on with the Plasma sets. When Dark Explorers came out, Darkrai X was very powerful. It was basically him and Mewtwo, the best Pokemon. He was going to be the guy that was going to counter Mewtwo, had a resistance to him, had 10 more HP, and did very solid damage with his attack. And, the free retreat it gave you, that kind of supporting role was pretty good. But alone, he wasn't going to do it. It was thanks to Dark Patch. So what this meant is the deck was built and designed to, okay, if you play first, you dump your Darkness energy, you use your Dark Patches, you do all that stuff, so you can build them ready turn 1, and then turn 1 you do 90 damage and 30 to a Pokemon on the bench if your opponent had any. So that's a lot of damage, 120 damage first turn, no drawbacks basically, and that was one of the decks that utilized the whole you can play first, do whatever the fuck you want. Now, the other deck that was even worse, that made things even fucking worse, was Plasma. Now, when the fucking Plasma Storm, I think, came out, it was okay. They did get some cards, but when Plasma Freeze came out, and we got Pokemon like Deoxys EX, which gave 10 more to all of the Plasma Pokemon, and I believe Kyurem, I think it came in Plasma Freeze, might have come in Plasma Storm, I don't remember, but basically it was the same idea. You build your deck so you can go like turbo fast, and thanks to the Chorus machine as well, yeah, that was the card that contributed to it. You basically could do 120 with the Kyurem. Once again, a big basic Pokemon 130 HP that can do 120. Or, I mean, you can just start doing 60 basically for 30 on the active and 30 on the bench. But, it took advantage of the fact that you could use Cora's machine, you could add all these extra damage with the Deoxys, and once again, you did a lot of free damage for cheap energy. Not necessarily for one energy, but I mean, I guess the fucking Thundurus EX could do that. You could just straight up do fast damage with that dude and then grab energies too with his effect. But yeah, it was some bullshit. I actually wasn't playing when I did play the black and white format, but I kind of got into it after the Legendary Treasures rule changes and the Pokemon Catcher changes. Oh, and yeah, Pokemon Catcher as well. Uh, Pokemon Catcher as well, that was before that card got errated. And that card is basically Lysander on a trainer card. That was what it was. You could play like 4 of that. You could use it as many times in a turn. So I don't think I need to tell you guys anymore. That was probably the worst fucking format. It was just, I mean, shit. In my opinion, it's even worse than the Wizards format where there was all these Team Rocket cards and the cards that basically discarded your hand before you could do shit back in the very, very old days. Now, in my opinion, that was pretty shit. That was pretty bad as well, of course. No skill and it's just complete hand rape. But the thing is that with that kind of strategy, if it went wrong and if your opponent could come back, then you kind of used up all your cards for nothing. Like if your opponent, let's say top deck a fucking Professor Oak, then you did that shit for nothing. So it was kind of a luck thing that you could do that strategy and you could win, but it was pretty risky. The thing is with the black and white shit that I just talked about, no matter what, you just had straight advantage. It could have been a solid, fair game from there on out, but you just had the fucking advantage. That's it. The player that played first and did all that stuff had a clear advantage, no drawback, and it was shit. So that's why I think even the Rocket sort of format with I think it was called Team Rocket's Attack, Team Rockets, I don't remember, but there were a bunch of cards that discarded cards from your hand back in the Wizard days. I don't remember them, but I wasn't even playing back then. But if you check out Jason Klaczynski's articles, you should find out everything about those old formats. Is excellent. Now, for the best Pokemon format, in my opinion, this one's pretty easy. You can just basically any sort of format from the third generation original EX format. In my opinion, it's the best format. Once again, gonna tell you guys to go and read Jason Klaczynski's articles about all those formats. If you just read that shit, it should be pretty clear. Now, those formats, they were just great because there was a lot of variety, the biggest variety, the biggest creativity, so many combos, so many different cards, interactions, little things here and there. And not only was the card pool rich, it was kind of a setup oriented where, you took your time. If you wanted to, do well, you had to take a little bit of your time, set up some good Pokemon, you know, just get a good setup going. If you wanted to attack fast, that could be pretty good as well. You had that option, but then maybe late game, you weren't going to be as good. It really was indeed the golden age of the Pokemon TCG. We had the Delta species Pokemon, we had dual type Pokemon, owners Pokemon, like so many different cards, man, so many different variations, basically everything. After the third generation, with the fourth generation, they took out a lot of stuff, they added some stuff, but then from there on out, it just seems like they simplified the game. A lot of the stuff, minus let's say the GX concept, they've been basically in fourth generation and primarily in the third generation. The third generation is where they really put everything they ever thought, every TCG mechanic, every sort of a cool TCG thing. If it was added over there basically. And just to go back in the worst Pokemon format with the black and white shit I was talking about, the problem was back then, if it wasn't for all this bullshit that they did, with the errata of the rare candy and introducing EX Pokemon that were basic and just had all this HP, it also made Stage 1 Pokemon, and especially Stage 2 Pokemon, almost useless. And that was a terrible thing. They were just too slow. They needed to definitely work on one energy if they even had a chance. And Pokemon like Empoleon from Dark Explorers that had like the best shot of doing shit, it was kind of tier 2 at best. I mean, later on maybe it became kind of better when the rule changes changed and Pokemon Catcher got errated as well and shit. But it was never at its best potential. It could have been much better, and other stage decks could have been much better too. So in conjunction with this and all these other stuff, I just really feel it was the worst format, man. A lot of bullshit. It actually shaped the way the TCG is today. It's like a whole different TCG. They simplified things. They mixed, bodies and powers into abilities, and it just kind of makes sense as its own different type of Pokemon TCG. But even if you look at it like that, there was a lot of things that they did that maybe they shouldn't have done. With the basic EXs being so big, and the errata of rare candy, all this stuff. If they were gonna bring the EX Pokemon back like that, they should have just made them, let's say, have 150, 140 HP being EXs and shit. I mean, I don't know, since they were just gonna be basic anyway. Kinda like the third generation. But anyway, that's what I think about this shit. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, share this with your friends. I'm also going to ask you guys to just leave me some thoughts of things that maybe you want me to talk about, or maybe some questions you guys have about the TCG. It's not necessarily that I'm running out of ideas, but maybe if you guys give me some good things to talk about, or just something to do, if I can do it, if I can talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. Pokemon TCG, of course, but maybe something else as well if I find interesting. Anyways, guys, Saber104, what's up?